Hello and welcome to episode 97 of the Crate and Crowbar, a PC gaming podcast. It is the 17th of June 2015 and this will be our PC E3 digest. We've digested E3 over the last couple of days, over the course of very many late nights for me, and we're now ready to regurgitate it in the manner of a mother bird back into your mouths. But however, the sheer amount of stuff at E3 this year, because it has been a big one, means that we don't really have time to structure the pod as we normally would, with some news at the front and then what we've been playing in the middle. So I was thinking that we would start with a really quick fire what we've been playing. I'm going to ask you the questions, guys, who I should introduce, which I haven't done. Marsh.
Hi.
And Tom. Francis.
Hello. Who are you?
Chris.
Right.
Thurston. I haven't had very much sleep with all these people. Anyway, I'm going to ask you two questions.
Mm-hmm.
You have to answer them in as close to a single word as possible.
Okay.
Marsh.
Yes.
What have you been playing?
Lego World.
Oh, you can maybe have a short phrase if it helps.
Lego Worlds.
Okay. Is it nice?
Yes.
Good. Tom, what have you been playing?
GTA 5. Oh, wait. GTA should count as one word, right?
Sure. Is it nice?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
I've been playing Elite.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. And on with the news. We've got a big list of games here. We're going to go through them. Maybe cutting out a few things that we'd have literally no opinions on whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Your Transformers tie-in franchise sequels and so on. But we'll start with Battle Cry. Which one's Battle Cry? I hear you cry. It's not Battleborn.
No.
That's for sure.
Oh, hang on. Maybe I was thinking Battleborn when I said we should
rather
talk
similar
about
to one another.
Is Battleborn the Gearbox one?
Battleborn is the Gearbox first-person MOBA adventure thing, whereas Battle Cry is the Bethesda
yes. No, I was thinking about
third-person MOBA shooter adventure battle thing.
Yeah. Yes. Is it a MOBA? I thought it was just like a team-based shooter in the style of Team Fortress.
What is a MOBA?
I don't know. But anyway, it seems to be like a mixture of kind of melee stuff with lots of swords and people spinning and dancing and throwing things and stuff.
It's a weird looking thing.
But it doesn't really, there's something about the art style that's just not doing it for me. And I really like the people who are involved in creating that art style. And I like a lot of the character designs in stills, but somehow in action. Like the characters don't seem to mesh with the world, which seems quite densely created. It looks like sort of like a set piece out of Dishonored. And yet,
Victor Antonov, so.
Well, that's why.
Yeah.
And yet these kind of cartoonish characters careening about it don't seem to fit in that world. And also, there's something odd about their animations. Like it seems like they've kind of cut animation frames from it in the style that you would if you were animating, a frame animation, as in the old kind of pixel art sprites, and you want something to happen quickly, so you just cut out frames in between so it happens instantaneously. But that doesn't really work when you've got a 3D model. I think that's what they're doing anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's intentional, because it looks like it's just like the people are running at a different frame rate to the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And also a different frame rate to their own movement. And I usually hate this criticism, but my negative reaction to the look of it is basically summed up as, like, it looks like a mod. Which is, like, usually that's leveled to say, oh, it looks amateurish and mods are amateurish and shit. But it just reminds me of the days when, like, it was really, really hard to make an original game, so everyone who wanted to make a game made a mod if they didn't have the resources to, make their own engine or something. And so you'd often get mods where the artists really had their own style and they wanted to do something in their own style, but they just didn't have time to redo the whole game, so they would just do the characters, and you end up with characters that just don't really fit in the world they've been put in. And it looks sort of alright, but it's just isn't quite a cohesive art style.
Yeah. But I don't know how it plays, though. Maybe it's great. Next game!
Speaking of Victor Antonov, sort of, Dishonored 2 got announced.
So it is.
Hey!
That looks fucking hot.
Yeah.
That was super exciting, particularly considering that had been spoiled, like, the day before. Someone's excited outside.
Yeah, they love Victor Antonov.
They just saw that
Screaming
tentacle
children love Dishonored.
It was, I think Bethesda's conference maybe happened in the night, or I missed it.
They all happened in the night, Tom, which is why I can't even have human thoughts anymore.
Anyway, when I woke up in the morning, everyone else had seen it and I hadn't, and I watched it without reading anything about it. And even though the fact that Dishonored 2 would be there had been spoiled, I didn't know that it was going to have a female protagonist, and didn't know it'd be Emily. And it was great to, it was really well revealed in that trailer. You kept seeing glimpses of the character, and it just looked a bit too slender for a video game man. Not too slender for a man, but for a video game man. It wouldn't be quite that thin. I kept thinking, God, could it be a female protagonist? And then, yes, it was, and it was Emily, and it was awesome. And apparently you can play as Corvo as well, and it's just a choice.
I really like the idea of going to a post-colonial? Well, not post-colonial, colonial setting. That's excellent. I can't think of any other games that have really taken that as its setting, the Raj, for example, or, any other kind of British colonial colony.
Yeah, I can't either. It's one of those things where it's why the hell hasn't Assassin's Creed done that? But
I suppose it kind of did in Panau and places like that. Much there were plantations there, but not like an occupied territory.
Not like British India, for example.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. They sort of confirmed afterwards that Emily and Corvo will have different movesets and gadgets completely, which I quite like the idea of, actually.
Yeah.
Because you can mix, they proved with Dowd in the expansion for the original that you can mix in kind of new power sets into that sandbox, and it works really well.
Presumably her tentacle thing is kind of the blink replacement. And I guess I don't know from seeing it how functionally different it is to blink. Maybe you could latch onto walls.
It sort of suggests at the end that it's sort of part of this sort of smoke form she has, which is a bit like the darkness. The end when she lifts up the target with her smoke tentacles.
She was also the smoke monster in Lost.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Still getting work all these years later.
She looks really cool.
Yeah.
The design of that character is just awesome.
Well, that series, Dishonored 1 had really, strikingly well-designed characters in general, in terms of having this really expressive. Everyone has a really
different.
A lot of cheekbones generally in that world, but also the women particularly all looked quite kind of impressive, and it was in a way that was rare for games generally, that none of the women were designed to be titillating particularly, or even to sort of naturally conform to traditional stereotypes of female beauty, even there are courtesans and stuff in it, and then prostitutes, but, the way they're presented is not glamorized at all. But the Empress at the start, where you meet her and she's wearing, I think all the women wear, trousers in that world purely because, skirts are a pain in the ass to carry.
Yeah.
But it's still a really cool, aesthetic choice, and, she looks rad as well, Emily Baldwin. She does look like the grown-up version of the girl that you were protecting in the first game.
Cool.
Yeah, I really liked also the kind of the implication of those automata, those kind of sword fighting robots, because I think sometimes adding tougher enemies that can chase you to a stealth game can kill it a bit. But Dishonored had a power problem to a degree where you were so powerful that nothing could chase you, particularly vertically.
I wonder if it's also to do with one of my criticisms of Dishonored was that if you want to use the cool tools, you kind of have to be evil. You get marked down for using all the cool shit, because there's shredding haywire grenades that just lacerate people. There's no peaceful way to use those. You either don't use them at all, or you get the bad ending. And so I wonder if robot enemies are one way they can let you be more kind of destructive and have more kind of ridiculous traps and stuff like that without necessarily forcing you down one moral path.
Seem to have some kind of other plague analog thing going on.
The kind of crow flies crawling out of a man's sort of ruptured intestines.
Yeah.
It's funny, that was only a couple of days ago, but there's been so many videos since then. As you're saying this stuff, I'm oh yeah, I remember that now.
And the trailer ends with the outsider picking up Corvo's mask, which I guess was their gesture at, they're back as well.
Yeah.
But I mean,
sad about that.
The outsider is probably the only character I'd be glad to see them ditch or change substantially.
I just hope it just doesn't tell you what you're already doing and just say, I see you, Corvo, doing the thing you're already doing. I'm now going away, but I'll be back later to comment pointlessly on you.
Part of me was I was kind of hoping for a sequel that would be just the outsider marking someone completely different part of the world, and sort of halfway there and halfway still this sort of very much a connection to that narrative of the first game. But no, it's still exciting. I really sincerely hope because I love the first game and I've played it through so many times, but I hope they fix its fundamental problems with, for example, its morality system, and also and simply balancing those powers. That's you know, maybe the grapple is another thing where like Blink was broken because you weren't physically in any of the space between where you were and where you wanted to be. So a way to balance levels a little bit differently is to have really, not rather than teleportation, just really fast movement in any direction, which is another interesting way to kind of get past Dishonored's like, and I'm over here now, goodbye issue.
The trick videos that have come out for Dishonored since release have just been increasingly amazing ever since launch. Like there was loads to do with that toolset that I never discovered. I think I kind of like them to redo mana a little bit, because that's why I didn't use all that stuff, is because it drained all my mana, and then I had to kind of, you could still, if you had enough potions, you could still kind of recharge your mana, but it took a second to do it, and so it just was slightly unpredictable as to like what I could and couldn't do, and when I'd be interrupted over it. And I'd like a system where I was more encouraged to do those things, like maybe they're on individual cooldowns or something like that.
I was thinking this, that like, you know, a cooldown system, but one way you could like maybe, you know, but there's some sort of degree of finesse with how you use the ability. So if you used it badly, you get the effect, but you trigger a cooldown, whereas if you used it well, you can immediately use it again. So chain blinking or something would be a matter of, I don't know exactly how you'd implement that. But
like an active reload sort of
thing. Active reload was what I was going to say actually from Gears of War, where there's just there's a small finesse thing that you can do. Because I mean,
that was cram a new mag in your blink stick.
Yeah, exactly. Reload your mana brain. But actually that's what you did in that game. Like that, you did reload your, I think we're quaffing a remedy. But like, I mean, I think the great thing about Dishonored is it has such a high skill ceiling because you could stretch the power fantasy so far to the point where the things you're doing are completely incredible. But I guess the issue was that you were so powerful anyway that you still didn't need to like even get particularly good at it to completely dominate anything the game could throw at you. Whereas I'd like to see that rebalanced, and just adding more things to get good at would be a really good way of doing it. I'm very excited about that computer game. I would like to see it actually being played by a human man or woman, human person. Doom. We're on Bethesda kick.
Cool.
Doom.
Yeah, like the look of it.
Yeah, same.
Sorry, I was just joining in.
Yeah, it seemed to be gratifyingly fast-paced, and it made a lot of the other shooters, they seemed really pedestrian. You know, I watched the Halo, whatever number it is now, after that. It seemed very, very static, and you moved a lot slower in Halo, and...
Here's one enemy.
Yeah.
Shoot the gun at him. He's gone now.
Blop, 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 blop. Turn. Blop, 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 blop. No, not making blop, blop. This is with their guns, but...
Oh, the bridge is collapsing. Dangle. Dangle. And dismount.
Yeah, whereas in Doom, you know, he's already kind of decapitated several demons by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the fact that you seem to get health back from... being aggressive. That's an interesting feedback loop from Bloodborne, basically, which is good.
Yeah.
There's double jump and mantling, which is kind of weird, because, you know, Doom was so flat, and so kind of...
Yeah, but it was about being fast and using space to your advantage.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think, actually, it's very natural that it would be similarly agile in all the dimensions that are now possible. Yeah.
It's... I was had an idle kind of daydream that, like, maybe we genuinely are just surrounded by screaming children at all times.
Shall I close the window a bit so we don't have to hear the mewling fucking brats?
Yeah.
Why do you grow up for about a decade, you wankers?
Anyway. But, like, it felt, you know, in some ways, you saw, you know, what they showed of the new Gears of War and whatever really stood out at this conference. Actually, the same was true for Uncharted, admittedly, venturing into console land, but to make a point, they really looked like games from the past in this really pronounced way, where it's like, that previous generation of consoles, the Xbox 360 era, you could have spectacle, or you could have some kind of system-based design. I actually think the original Gears of War is a very well-designed game. We might get to that in a bit, but it's a well-designed game within the confines of, this is going to be a game about proceeding through a series of very boxy locations, solving a combat encounter, and then moving on to the next one.
If it's not got an entire mountain range that you can freely explore in it, I'm no longer interested.
No, exactly. You know, this is the era of Todd Howard. But the point being that, like, that was how you made games. They had to be spectacular to sell. They demoed brilliantly at E3, because, like, you know, Uncharted would blow people's minds with how detailed it was, and all of the bants, the seemingly dynamic pants. It was like being in a film. if a bad film, and you know, that stuff dominated the games industry for most of a decade now. You know, that has been like what a AAA game is to find so much about that template. And yeah, weirdly, that was the stuff that seemed the most dated, even next to a game literally called Doom. Doom felt progressive.
And a very conscious attempt to recreate the original Doom, too.
Yeah.
Like, not building on Doom 3 at all, just saying, scrap all that, let's go back to 1992?
3. Like, going back to 93 felt more futuristic than, you know, this return to 2007. And that was really interesting, because the other thing was that, you know, that they've announced that, you know, they'll have, like, you know, mod support and this amazing tool set, and they're screaming louder now.
It sounds actually like one of them has been horribly dismembered by the Doom guy.
Yeah, exactly. That notwithstanding. But like the map editor they revealed, which looks a lot like the build engine, which was really nice touch.
yeah.
Oh, the Snap thing. What's it
Yeah,
called? Snap.
Snap map. They could have done
Doom Snap. Snappy Doom.
Snappy bird.
Yeah, that looked great. Like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
There was a big theme of let console people create stuff and let it all be cross-platform and that kind of stuff across all of E3, and particularly Bethesda, because they're doing this new Bethesda Net thing, which is meant to support that.
but exactly, like, you know, this game felt really futuristic because it was clearly systems driven and about its combat system. Someone had actually thought about how to handle health regeneration in a way that didn't fuck an action game, which basically, since people got rid of health packs, no one had actually satisfactorily figured out. And like, just a really, I felt quite impressive. I mean, deeply, I suppose for the same reason, maybe a bit navel-gazy in terms of like, remember this, sort of, maybe that was just for the conference build, but like, you hear the, John Whooper, conference whooper, whoop every time the man wrenches a chainsaw out of the body of a demon. They're like, yes, I recognize that. That I think maybe strays a little bit close to like, well, what else are you going to do? Show us a new gun design that's as interesting as that, rather than like, here are all the guns you recognize.
The plasma gun sounded a bit wimp.
That looked rubbish, actually. I saw. No, it was definitely the weak point.
That used to be an amazing sound, plasma gun. It was completely bizarre, but awesome.
Pro Doom then.
Pro Doom.
Which brings us deeper into the very brief lull in the middle of the Bethesda conference when they announced Elder Scrolls Legends, one of several CCGs. You might as well wrap up the CCGs in one go. There was also Star Wars Cards, the Men game. Hero guys, please buy this.
Yeah.
And,
I don't remember all the others. They have all merged into one. I quite like CCGs. I only ever need one of them though.
Yeah. I feel like they're going to be a bit like MOBAs, of which there are now many.
Where is the first MOBA / CCG? Because that's, I mean, there are two things that are not incompatible. Sorry.
Demigod work a bit like that?
There was one a few years ago where you could play like Peggle while you're in your base. The reason I said it's kind of a bit like MOBAs is I think we figured out that MOBAs is a bit like MMOs. Basically, any sort of game that requires you committing huge amounts of money over time. One of the things that defines that school of design is people tend to only play one of them. They tend to deeply invest in one of them and then never touch a different one. Yeah. And yet, publishers see somebody investing deeply in the competitor's game and go, well, we should have one of those, not realizing that that's not, you know what I mean? It's like, an analogy I can't think of right now, but like,
it's a lot like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I do hope that this resurgence of interest will mean that Ubisoft bring back their Assassin's Creed CCG, because it made Rich Stanton extremely, extremely happy. He loves it. It was unexpectedly a fantastic CCG game, and completely just buried.
Was that a thing that was like in development and cancelled?
No, it came out. It's just that nobody played it. Oh, it was a digital CCG.
Right.
But I can't remember what it was on now. Maybe it was on like a PSP or something weird.
Yeah, it was. I do vaguely remember that.
I would like to quote Stephen Totino's joke about the Star Wars collectible card game, that it should have been called Darthstone.
That's pretty good.
Well done, Totino. It's enough applause now.
Thank you. Shall we move on from Elder Scrolls Legends? I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
We probably need to go through the rest a bit quicker.
Okay. Fallout 4.
Let's breeze over that. It was kind of like one of those apocalyptic things, you know.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, it was really exciting. I wasn't necessarily really primed to be super excited about Fallout 4, but after that, after Todd Howard's amazing demonstration of it, isn't he lovely?
Isn't he? What a nice...
He's just adorable.
Yeah.
You bounce him on your knee. Half of his hair. No, it's really good. It looks really amazing.
I think with that I was, because I think I, like you, was a bit underwhelmed by the initial reveal trailer. Because I was like, this is a game I played. And there's the thing with Bethesda games where we've talked about it so many times, they get so much wrong, really, in terms of their storytelling, often their art. And
well,
their
it
world
opens
design.
with the wrong stuff. Even the proper reveal at E3 opened with all this kind of narrative stuff and the hilarious banter.
But the robot knows your name because they've recorded shitloads of names for some reason.
Brilliant. But then, and then it started like, oh, and you can build your own base and, sweep up your own house. I was like, yeah, brilliant. You can move a mattress around. Brilliant. And then it just carries on going. And then you got a Pip-Boy made out of LEDs. I was just like, yeah, that looks fucking great. And it's involved in a constant struggle. You can set up caravans of two-headed cows to shift stuff from one settlement to another. It looks like there's a whole kind of exciting, strategy game built on top of an immersive RPG.
That was exactly it. Like, with Bethesda games, I attach to them really deeply the moment I feel like I kind of own something in it, whether it's just my character or like, the house I decorated in Fallout 3.
Yeah.
And I hadn't previously, until that moment when they were like, and yeah, you can build this, and you can set up your own automated defenses, and we have like a basic kind of logic system with wires and switches, and we can do...
They've basically got cross-linking in there.
Yeah.
And you can set up all this stuff, you can have caravans and the rest of it. I was like, that was the moment when I realised I was going to lose weekends to it, which doesn't happen to me very often, that a single player game comes along and it's like, I boot it up in the morning and I play it until I have to sleep. And I play it more. And that was really exciting. I don't necessarily massively care for the rest of it. I think it was at the Xbox conference, they showed a little bit more, and they showed a bit of like a mission, like you going and talking to an NPC, and the writing was just as terrible and the acting was just as wooden as you'd expect.
Yeah. I felt the same way. In a way, I kind of wish the base building was the whole point of the game. Like, not the only thing in the game, but like, that should be the main quest, is like, let's rebuild civilization.
Yeah.
Because that's actually what we should do.
Fixed it.
I'm sure it's going to be some fucking conspiracy or... I don't know. The intro, I was actually really zoning out from the presentation right up until the base building. The intro... which is pre-apocalypse, which is kind of what they hinted at with the previous trailer. And it was kind of the least interesting version of that, like, because the first reveal trailer was like switching between pre-apocalypse and post-apocalypse. It almost seemed like they might be doing some sort of like, either time jumping or flashbacks or some kind of like integration of those two things. And I remember you said, Chris, you just play as your dad in the intro or whatever. And that's more or less what it is.
You play as a dad or a mother.
Someone else's dad.
I mean, I quite like the idea of the male and female variants on the player character both existing, and you switch between them and you pick which one you're actually going to be.
But you can customize the man and then switch and play as a woman. Like, I want my husband to look like this, but I'm going to be this girl.
Yeah, but I am default. And like, that was cute.
Bravely default.
Indeed. Or Bravely Second, as it's now. The
is that
sequel's
right?
called. Bravely Second, which feels like something you would say to a disappointing child at sports day. I think the problem with that intro as well is it's not exactly like that moment in Fallout 3 where you were born at the beginning of the game, and you're kind of like, your character creation screen is is Liam Neeson genetically modifying you in a computer. It felt really kind of like, no one's ever done that before, but people have totally done the intro where you escape with your spouse and child. Yeah. And that's a bit staged. Also, it's not like you're going to be surprised by what happens next. The game is called Fallout. It's the fourth in a series of things that... it's like... Anyway. But otherwise, dead excited about it. And it's out this year. So, right. We'll want to gloss over this one mega quickly, but Dark Souls 3.
Actually, yeah, we can gloss over it quickly, because there's not that much that's been revealed about it, really.
Apart from that massive leak that now seems to have been completely accurate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, all E3 revealed is that it exists, and that it's by the guy's name I've completely forgotten.
Hidetaka Miyazaki.
That's the one. Who made the original game.
Yeah.
Bloodborne. Which is rad news for people who were cross that Dark Souls 2 did not feature.
But from the leak, I mean, you could see that it had men fighting in it. But like, there wasn't, but you couldn't really tell much more about it. Like, there wasn't any kind of mechanic that was obviously identifiable.
They did list off quite a few significant...
In the leak?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like what?
So there's it'll be up to 4-player multiplayer, so
right.
multiple summons, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That there's going to be some system for doing sacrifices, which will increase your it'll be more focused on like that kind of morality meter that allows you to get invaded.
Right.
And that'll involve sacrifices of some kind, which will allow you to do things like move bonfires, apparently, and things like that.
Sounds so bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they mentioned this, they call it Heat Up, which sounds like it should be like in a dance game. But it's some kind of system that changes boss encounters and potentially the environment based on how you're behaving. So it might be there's some screenshots that sort of seem to imply that it could be like a different boss in the same place.
Oh, right.
Or just a boss fight being completely different, like in terms of the patterns and so on.
That kind of does happen in Bloodborne, doesn't it, I think?
Yeah, so it could be an extension of those ideas. Sounds cool. I think it's interesting that, like, I desperately need to finish Bloodborne, but, which is why we haven't done the podcast that we'd still like to do, I think. But the fact that it's a 3 feels like almost it's still a bit of a dent in the purity of the thing. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I mean, I think, number 2 was, it was trying to bottle lightning, basically, and it couldn't really recapture the originality of the first game, even though that was obviously a sort of pseudo sequel to Demon's Souls. But going for number 3 in the sequence, I don't know what they're going to do, which won't feel like retreading old ground or just kind of my iterative improvement. Like, I'd actually be much more interested if they stopped making Souls games and carried on making individual new IPs. Like you did with Bloodborne, but I'm sure apparently you can do both those things at the same time, so I can't really complain.
But it's a weird thing because there's like this mechanical lineage that stretches from King's Field through Demon's Souls to Dark Souls to Bloodborne, and any of those things. I mean, King's Field was a series, but you can make series out of any of them. But it is a series, like it is a series of a set of game design ideas progressing over time.
Yeah.
But putting a 3 on the end, everyone would be equally as excited if it was called something completely different, and it was just the new Souls game, because that's what it's called now.
Mark Souls. That's how I call it.
Yeah. Indeed. Next we have Ion, which is, I almost said Ian, because that's what my notes look like. But, Ian is the new game by Dean Hall, which he announced at the Microsoft conference, by saying, I want a game that is not a game. And he continued that train of thought at the PC gaming show, which we did, by saying, I think the best way to define Ion is by saying what it's not. So
a game.
Yeah. He wants a game that's not a game, and it's not Elite or Eve or Star Citizen. It's Space Station 13.
Yeah.
Apparently.
It was the trailer. So I saw his whole thing at Microsoft, and was, intrigued and thought it looked like a interesting Elite style game. And then it was shown again at the PC Gaming show, and then he talked about it for quite a while. And then he just mentioned like a Diablo style camera, and I was thinking, okay, but what? And then kind of right towards the end, he mentioned Space Station 13, and it would be more like that. And then, Day 9 asked him, like, I've got to ask you, like, what's the best bug you've seen? And then he says, just recently, when you click on a citizen of your starship, space station, all of his organs fall out. So, what the fuck? I have like 19 questions about that statement.
Yeah.
So you're managing people aboard a space station, and you've simulated all of their internal organs. Like, there's a hell of a lot to get into there. But it's still basically completely mysterious, and almost everything about the trailer was fundamentally misleading, I think. Like, I don't think I got anything from the trailer that will actually be true of the game.
No. It's hard to call. I was about to say that in reference to the degree of simulation that Dean Hall doesn't do things by halves. But if you ask the Daisy,
Yes.
there may be a slightly different response to that.
It was really cool to see Day 9 just asking that right
Yeah,
now. Like,
yeah.
You don't see that at the Microsoft press conference.
Indeed. Pull no punches on the PC Gamer friendly couch. Yeah, I mean, it's great that Space Station 13's ideas are finding expression somewhere, and there's a bit of money behind them. That's really positive, but it's such an unknown, and it's such a, this is the game that, Dean Hall left Daisy to do, presumably, so it's a kind of a bit of a proof of concept for him as well. Like, if you need, so this, I would say this is one that really is following through on and turning into a thing that sustains people's interest. Also in space, Tacoma.
That's in space. That's also incredibly mysterious, but at least we know what kind of game it's going to be. Gone Home in space.
Yeah, the section at the PC gaming show where Steve Gaynor showed up to talk about it was the most information I think that's ever come out about exactly how it works and the setting, and that it's set on like a way station that which would house 6 people normally, so it's quite an intimate space station. It's not, this kind of...
is it?
Yeah.
I missed that.
It's an intimate space station.
And it's got System Shock style digital ghosts.
Yeah, it has digighosts.
Digighosts.
Like Doom is one of the things.
What if you can talk to digighosts though?
What if? Yeah, you can talk to Odin, who is the ship AI, which there's definitely a resurgence happening in games with onboard HALs, Halamobs, we might call them more. Yeah, like because there's also Event Zero, which is maybe in early access. Which is the game where you are stranded in a spaceship with an AI that you talk to in the manner of a chatbot.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it desperately doesn't want you to leave, and you desperately have to persuade it to let you leave. Apparently it's amazing.
This is a friend of mine, like a few years ago, was telling me about the game he was sort of half making in his spare time and was really excited about. And then when that trailer came out, it's almost exactly what he described to me. And so I sent a link to it saying, "Hey, look, someone's already doing this." And he just replied saying, "FFS."
But no, Andy's played it for us, and apparently it's great. Like, you actually have this weird interaction with her. Because, those chatbots are really good at creating this eerie sense that there's someone else there, but they're not human. So having it literally be your ship's AI that doesn't want you to go, but is a program, is dead cool. That's a different game. But yeah.
In lieu of knowing anything about Tacoma, that's what we'll talk about. She signs a password. That was cool.
There's some implication that there's like a big gravity element that they, Steve said something quite interesting about how, Gone Home is fundamentally like a 2D game almost, because you just survey everything at eye level and then kind of leave the room, whereas having to explore a space that doesn't have gravity is a very different kind of walking simulator. Floating simulator.
Spacewalking simulator.
Yeah, exactly. Cuphead.
Looks nice.
Does.
Nice. Good. Nice.
Yeah.
I share your fear that it probably irrational given this being made in 2015, that it's on the verge at any point of being really racist.
Yeah, it's not that I think it will be, it's just that whenever I look at that, I'm kind of wincing for the racism.
So I think they're all cups, aren't they? It's probably okay.
Maybe they're racist against jugs.
To clarify, Cuphead is a platformer that in and of itself doesn't look particularly hugely original in terms of being like a 16-bit throwback platformer, but has the most phenomenal art style where it looks like a classic 30s and 40s cartoon. It looks like Steamboat Willie with film grain and amazing
and apparently
blurriness.
It's all hand-drawn and hand-inked.
Jeez, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's on the verge of tremendous offence at any given point.
Is it, do you know if it's coming to PC?
Yes.
Awesome.
It was at the Microsoft conference, but on its own website it confirms it's coming to PC. Because Xbox means PC now, which is the way that Microsoft are currently announcing their Xbox exclusives.
It was interesting actually, just in I didn't get much of a sense of what it's like to play, but there were bits in it that looked like bullet hell shooters, and there was just a slightly, for the most part, it just looks incredibly authentic to a 1930s cartoon. And then when you sort of recognise patterns from not modern games, but games since 1930, i.e. all video games, it suddenly looked weird to have these kind of bullet hell patterns imposed on that kind of setting. But it would be cool.
Next we have a game that might not be coming to PC, but probably will by the same exclusive to Xbox paradox thing. Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that could be.
Not excited, Chris?
No.
It was lovely the way her feet cut through the snow.
Oh yes,
the tracks
snow.
Look, you can't keep being impressed by snow. This is how they get you every time.
Really
actually, the bits they showed in the Microsoft conference anyway was incredibly dull to me. I liked Tomb Raider.
I remember watching it and thinking, I literally did exactly this.
Yeah,
in
it was
Uncharted.
so analogous so analogous to Tomb Raider. Slipping down the slidey slope and then climbing up with the ice pick.
And then the
even when
plane.
there wasn't ice, you're still climbing up with that ice pick.
Show me more of those kind of open plan levels where there are lots of zip lines all over the place.
Yeah,
that's what I want. Actually,
Even then,
it
that's-
isn't really Tomb Raider, but
The
landing
only-
and stuff.
The problem with those, even those
Or
sections,
puzzle
is there's only one way to solve them. You know, and
Yeah,
like,
that was
this is my fault with the Tomb Raider reboot, which is that it's like going somewhere is never a bad idea. Like it's sort of almost not a, you know, there's none of the kind of Metroidvania sort of, which is what they're going for most of these, you know, unlocked where you can kind of, you know, lose yourself in it because it's quite limited. It was quite a limited game in scope. So even when you got the grapple that allows you to do this thing, you should always absolutely do all of them, and none of them take particularly much time. And I just found it so kind of breezy and unthreatening. Like, I mean,
there wasn't any reason particularly to go back to places unless you were completely kind of maxing out the game's content. So maybe if this game has more open areas which actually have some reason for you to return to via more than one singular route, that would be exciting.
Weirdly, my favourite thing about Tomb Raider was the combat. Like, actually, even though it was like ludonarratively dissonant, drink.
Oh yeah, I did. I
say
enjoyed the combat.
It gave these big open spaces with enemies coming in from all different directions, and then just give you loads of really satisfying weapons. Like a shotgun's really good, the bow's really good.
Loads of area denial kind of equipment as well. Like, it was really fun to kind of flush people out. And
enemies would come in on zip lines and climb ladders and be really persistent in getting to you. And yeah, just had loads of really cool fights. Just remember loads of times like turning around and then at the last possible moment a guy's like zip lining down at me and I just happened to catch him with an arrow and he falls off the zip line and it just looks really cool. And it was completely video game, but it was good.
I think that's the thing. I don't think it's a terrible game. I give the first one 75, which means good. But I don't think there's any other series at the moment that frustrates me quite so much with this irritating division between what it says it's doing and what it's doing. Because even when it works as a kind of action adventure game, I think, you know, I think the platforming is, and the kind of that side of it is vastly oversimplified. It affects this sort of swagger of this narrative thing, which it resolutely fails at every juncture. Like the themes it attempts to evoke collapse at the first touch of the game. And I know this is true of so many other games. I don't know why it bothers me so much in this particular case, but I think maybe it's because I loved Tomb Raider. Like, you know, and I acknowledge the traditional Tomb Raider's problems, particularly in the way that Lara Croft was depicted, and I'd be completely for a more intelligent, you know, revival of that character. I don't think this is that, actually. Also, but I may have said this in the podcast before, but like, the point of those previous games was always how much power you felt of your environment in a way. Like, you started off kind of helpless and faced some kind of phenomenal temple puzzle. Yeah. And you cracked it by thinking about it and experimenting and getting good at jumping and moving took time. It wasn't just press the button in rhythm with what the game wants you to do. It wasn't this kind of roller coaster that you sit on like Uncharted. And
are you talking about the original Tomb Raider?
I'm talking about Tomb Raider's basically up to Underworld.
Yeah.
Like, which I really liked. And I think I still feel really frustrated because the originals were this sort of fun matinee thing and almost the justification that's offered for so vastly removing all of the interesting game stuff from that series is that it's a much more intelligent narrative now, that it's more meaningful and grounded. And it just fucking isn't. You fight a fucking wizard in the first one. Like, there's no, you know, and the whole, like, there's a line in the second trailer there is to E3, I'm almost angry about this, where they said, where it's like, you know, Lara says something like, you know, the road ahead looks, you know, the journey's long, but I have to find a way. And it's like, well, no, the journey's going to last 7 hours, and the way is always going to be forwards and then zipline. Always, without exception.
We don't know that. I have hope that they will improve the things that I liked about that first game, which is, you know, the open plan areas and the kind of open plan combat.
I just hope
they could do that. That wasn't in the demo, obviously, that they played at E3, but I can still hope.
I just hope that I have to climb up onto a ledge, and the ledge collapses, and then I'm sliding down. Oh no, and there's hazards. That's what I'm hoping for. It's a long shot, but they might do it.
I really want to do some forced limping. I just want a sequence where I'm forced to limp for a period of time, and then I kill a deer. That's really what I want.
I want to play a game.
Easily fulfillable Tomb Raider hopes is this section of the podcast.
I want to play that game as an avalanche. I want a game where you just control an avalanche just fucking rushing down a hill chasing Lara Croft.
Holy shit, nobody... That is actually quite a good game idea for a game. No, seriously, because there have been, what's it called? The Badman games, like, I never asked... What is it? What's the subtitle of those games? Badman.
I never asked for this.
Yeah, I think it's something like...
Jensen Cyclops.
I didn't ask for this, oh Lord, or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, well, the Badman games, you play as it's like a Dungeon Master game, but you're kind of creating an ecosystem which will defend your dungeon from heroes who are coming into it. And I could see you being a malevolent mountain in the midst of like the dragon's
mountain,
triangle.
Dungeon Keeper, and Tomb Raider.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. So, and you can just fucking place a zip line that just goes straight into the sea. And you're like, fuck you, Lara, get in the sea.
Or a massive spiky twig.
Yeah, exactly. That basically.
Should we move on?
They are rendering every individual snowflake on her eyelashes.
Yeah.
They confirmed.
Yeah.
Just so
That
you
will
can
make
see
it a better
the
game.
trauma. Sea of Thieves, which is the pirate MMO shared world thing being made by Rare, the first new Rare game announced.
Which doesn't.
Since they were strapped into the Microsoft machine, like
they made lots
Immortan
of
Joe's
games.
wives in Mad Max.
Oh my god. I've kind of Rare really haven't done anything that's really delighted me in many years. They've kind of had a lot of games which are almost alright. Like Viva Pinata has some amazingly charming things about it. The Nuts and Bolts Banjo-Kazooie game was almost the best game of all time, but did enough things just to completely fuck up their amazing premise to make it a 7 out of 10. And,
Wow.
So they've obviously got like design chops there still. Well, they had. So I am quite excited the idea of a naval combat game. I don't know. The demo spent a lot of time looking at pieces of kind of low poly grass on an island as though that was in some way interesting. So I'm hoping that part of the game is...
Yeah, that was so obviously fucking pirates from the first second of that
Do you
trailer.
think the reason they spent so long there was to
Reveal
tease it?
pirates, yeah. No,
I just thought they were like... I just thought they thought...
They were bad at trailers.
Well, no, I thought they thought that the island they created was particularly impressive or beautiful in some way, which it isn't really.
I don't know which interpretation of this is most favourable to them.
I know.
They failed on both counts, apparently.
Yeah. Anyway, looks like good water, really good water.
Top water, necessary for a pirate game.
Yeah.
Otherwise you fucked it, basically. Oh yeah. Mass Effect Andromeda, also known as the exact moment you can switch off the E3 conference. You can stop almost immediately after that 2-minute trailer.
Which conference was this part of? I can't remember.
EA, sorry.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was the beginning of EA's conference.
Oh,
with
Jesus
Johnny
Christ,
Cash.
yeah, that went on.
Yeah, who cares? That's what I say. Next game.
Long time. They had, so in the EA conference they had that and Mirror's Edge, right?
And
was there anything
Battlefront.
else? Battlefront. Which is, I mean, well, we'll talk about that later, but, I mean, that's sparse going for, what was it, 19 hours?
It
felt like 19 hours.
Let's talk about
one of them.
mobile. And
What does it mean to play?
Oh, it was
What does it
grueling.
mean to play?
Please someone explain this to us.
Actually, that was a running motif in the conferences.
Yeah.
I guess it probably is every year, but
So come on.
before we get to any of the interesting things that you're here to hear about, can't we just talk about what a game is, or what play is, or why do we play?
As did
Why do
the
we
kind
play
of the
games?
repeated self-resurrection of EA Sports, which has always been a section in the middle of the show where they talk about UFC
God,
and you switch off. Whereas this year they kept bringing it back, it was like this horror movie where like just as soon as you think it's over, there's like, oh fuck, they're done.
Oh god, NBA!
Yeah.
Lurching from behind the cat shirt.
Yeah, I was going to nick this. I'm nicking from myself on Twitter, but it's like the EA Sports are coming from inside the house. Inside the Andrew house.
They've traumatized us so much we can't even talk about Mass Effect.
Tell us your thoughts, Chris. Come on.
So actually, there's genuinely, they didn't
Oh, he's put his book down.
There's genuinely, I'm gesticulating.
Is this going to be the rest of the podcast now?
No. But there's some interesting stuff that came from this. One is, it's called Mass Effect Andromeda because it's set in the Andromeda Galaxy, presumably. The trailer doesn't show a huge amount. It shows a protagonist in N7 armor, like scrolling between planets. But what BioWare said subsequently suggested that that's actually not who you are. That the N7 stuff is actually kind of for the purpose of the trailers, and that you're not an N7 in the game, which is kind of interesting because it kind of separates the EA's weird obsession with that symbol for their branding and the game itself. And then to the Mako and a bunch of fighting on a desert planet, and not a huge amount else to Johnny Cash, Ghost Riders in the Sky. what was interesting about it is there's a frame at exactly 1 minute 27 seconds in that trailer where it shows the two companions that they're charging into battle, right, for like the jetpack strike thing. One of them's a Krogan, and one of them looks like she's wearing a helmet, but it's a humanoid female. It could be a Sari, could be human, or any of the ones that look like humans when they're covered up. And so that, coupled with the name, mean that leak from April is probably true. Because in April, a EA survey taker revealed a shitload of information about Mass Effect 4, which was dubious at the time, but had that precedent for EA focus test surveys actually revealing loads of information about the game had happened with Dragon Age Inquisition as well. So people thought it might be true. But in that leak, it came, the suggestion was that the game would be set in a particular part of the Andromeda Galaxy. They didn't name the game, but that matches. But also the two companions that they would repeatedly refer to in order to, demonstrate how the companions might fit into the game were a Krogan called Drac and a female biotic called Cora. And that fits exactly with what you see in that one frame of the trailer. Therefore, you actually kind of probably know more about Mass Effect 4 at this point than the trailer actually said.
What did that leak suggest?
So, it's going to be quite substantially about exploration across loads and loads of planets and about kind of reclaiming worlds. So there'll be a bit like how Inquisition had the kind of building the Inquisition mechanic with the kind of world map and building your own faction. It'll have if this leak is true, it will have a kind of substantial colony founding element where you're in this. The notion is that it's a long time after the end of the trilogy, and in a different galaxy, which sort of separates them from some of the kind of long-term ramifications which is actually quite clever because all of the stuff in Mass Effect, the original Mass Effect trilogy was on a galactic scale. The Reapers are specific, presumably, to our galaxy.
Right.
So if in the whole finding a new home thing, regardless of what ending you got, finding a new home could well mean just fucking leaving that galaxy and going somewhere else. There's references to Krogan colony ships and stuff, and this idea of most of the civilizations we know all moving to this completely new part of space.
Yeah, because if it's those races, they have to have come from our galaxy, right?
But they've arrived in colony ships and they're far away from their home worlds. But there are loads of new races and new stuff in it. And that you'll basically found colonies and build up strike teams that you send on missions while you're doing other things and stuff like that, and that you're in a ship called the Tempest, and that it will have seamless space to Mako to on foot transitions. So the idea is that you kind of descend onto these planets and then run around and drive the Mako, which you can customize and refit fit and that kind of thing.
No Man's Effect.
Yeah. Which sounds
Mass
fucking
Man
rad, basically. I'm totally for them using the fact they've got the Frostbite engine now to make that game, basically, where it's much more about exploration and close to the first game in terms of driving around.
I mean, actually, the trailer, although it didn't show much, did get me really excited because it just sort of looked a bit more like what I want, I think, from a space fantasy. I mean, I love Mass Effect, and particularly Mass Effect 3. But I don't know, something about the galaxy browsing. Swipe left, swipe right.
The Tinder for concept art.
Galaxer. That's just kind of, I don't know, it tingled some funny bones.
Yeah.
I didn't, that one frame was so one frame that I didn't even realise there were companions in that trailer.
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was actually almost telling you there weren't going to be companions.
I thought I'd seen it when I watched it the first time, and then I went back, and YouTube was really hard to frame by frame through, so it took me a while, but I did find it. Because life will find a way.
I remember when the first shots of Crisis came out, and no one knew anything about it except that it was kind of Far Cry-ish, and it was on a jungle island, and it looked amazingly realistic, but there was a shed in one of the ships and just a weird blue glow in it, and I spent ages analysing that screenshot and ramping up the gamma to reveal the alien in it, and so we had the first kind of screenshot of the aliens in Crisis.
See, that's real journalism.
Yeah.
Dad.
Not like it's fucking newspapers.
Then we saw a little bit more of Six and the Mighty Rainbows.
Yeah! That was actually really exciting. I kind of, for some reason, I was not focusing on it, maybe because I just sort of recognised, this is Rainbow Six Siege, I know about that. But it was showing Terrorist Hunt, which is co-op versus AI, or presumably maybe single player versus AI as well. And in Rainbow Six Vegas, that was fucking brilliant. And in Vegas 2, where you just have a building, and there's just 26 terrorists in it somewhere, and just take them all out however you want. Come in from any angle, rappel down any roof, they come in through any window. And they showed some people doing that. And it had a man dangling from a rope upside down and silently headshotting another man through a window. And that made me very happy.
They also announced actually that, I think if you buy, Siege, it will come with both Vegas games. And neat.
There's a bunch of that. They also said, Bethesda said, buy Fallout 4, you get Fallout 3 on console.
Cool. Well, you'll have time for that, presumably. Yeah. But no, I thought, look, yeah, that game is shaping up. I think the great thing about the game is, I mean, as cheesy as Ubisoft's, and we'll probably get to this in a second, Ubisoft's, like, pretend banter demos, I don't know what you would call them, where they kind of have this kind of fake game chatter where people don't call each other fucking scrubs, therefore they're completely unrealistic, but, nobody sings. But, you know, they have repeatedly shown what those games actually are, I think, particularly Siege, where it really does come across like, you can sort of see how it all bolts together and like, you know, level destruction actually seems to work and contribute something to the game. Also, it turns out the lead of Rainbow Six is called Six. Yeah, completely refactoring the entire fiction.
They sent me like a sinister reply on Twitter about that.
Really?
When I said that, it's like a Charlie's Angels thing.
You and I made the same joke at the same time.
Yeah, we made the same joke at the same time. And yours was better, actually. But they replied to me and said, careful, now you know too much, or something. Well, you shouldn't do a fucking press conference about it.
Exactly. Actually, Tyler's gonna kill you. At the EA, back to EA, we briefly saw a very, very frightened man introduce Unravel.
Oh, yeah.
Yawn.
People seem really charmed by it. It's a game where you play a tiny little yarnman. Yanni. Yanni.
It looked nice, but I was also slightly, like, cynical about it, because it's an emotional platformer. And then the EA conference went on for so long on sports and mobile that I just spent all of it, like, dreaming about Yanni. I remember when they were showing a game with a mechanic.
Also wanders out and says, by when we are finished, you will beg for Yanni.
It's like a cute Limbo-style platformer, but not black and white. And you have Yarn trailing behind you. And that seems like a sort of, like, just an aesthetic gimmick, but actually, it seems like, you can, like, swing from it. If there's a drop or something, you can just drop down and then, like, swing from the rope that is connecting you to whatever you're originally tied to. And also, it looked like in one moment that the checkpoint system kind of works that way too, where you just sort of wrap your yarn around like a post, and then that becomes a checkpoint, because now when you dangle from that's what you can kind of bring yourself back to. I don't know if that's exactly how it works. They didn't show him, like, dying or anything. I don't know, if only they'd shown Yanni dying. When whoever it was...
Did Yanni die?
EA man said that, I went out to Sweden when I saw this game, I knew we had to bring it to the masses. Yeah. And
only we can do this in this era where digital distribution doesn't exist.
I was wondering, like, I wonder what kind of sold them on it. And then you look at it and just, because they just have fucking AAA production values. They just have incredible photorealistic graphics. Somehow.
I think that was what was going to struck me, was that, like, I'd never seen a game like this because I haven't paid attention to indie platforming for 5 years.
Most of them don't look like this. Most of them look more like Limbo, which is just like, we can't do art, so we're just going to make it all really high contrast so you can't tell that we're not doing art.
But it's beautiful in its own way.
Limbo's gorgeous.
Limbo is art.
They didn't have to make a lot of high-res textures for it.
Yeah.
I'm not, when I look at Limbo, I'm not like, how did they possibly have the budget to do this? I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. But it's beautiful for, like, artistic choice rather than raw, assets.
Raw assets. How about, I know you'll have really exciting, things to share about, Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
I was very excited about that.
But you hate Mirror's Edge.
Well, no. Yeah, I hate some things about Mirror's Edge, but I like the idea of Mirror's Edge. And the idea of it going open world is exciting, because that frees you of a lot of the strictures that I think ended up asphyxiating the joy from the original game.
Yeah, this is what we said, well, what I said last time we talked about this. Like, what would like from Mirror's Edge? And I said, well, the idea would be open world, but of course they couldn't possibly do that. And apparently they're doing it.
The bit that was struck out to me is, there's this kind of great introduction to faith and there was a dialogue surrounding E3 this year, which is like, there's a shitload of violence in games, aren't there? And I think it becomes freshly, when like Bethesda opens with Doom and then Fallout and a bunch of other things in quick succession, you do get this impression that, violence is video games. And there's this thing with Mirror's Edge, which has this kind of like deep naivety to it, and always has. Like, it's this kind of notion that just running really fast will
solve your problems.
Yes. And, you know, not even kind of a sweet way. But there's this moment in the trailer that was really fucking brutal where, you know, like, you know, Faith doesn't need guns. She relies on her speed and her martial arts and her reflexes and her will to survive. And then there's a moment in the trailer they showed where she just kicks a man the fuck out a window. and she just fucking Spartas a guy. And that for me was almost so violent, like the Doom dismemberment. I found that almost more surprising in that moment because I have this image of that game as being about fleeing authority, you know, stolid and brutalist, cyberpunk, you know, corp authority in quite an elegant way, you know, never leaving a trace and kind of like fleeing through the environment and making it your own, which is how I played Mirror's Edge, why I liked it. And there's this moment in that trailer where she's like, not this fucking guy. Fuck him.
There's a guy.
He's dead now.
There's a guy in Mirror's Edge 1, whose job it is to run out in front of the NVIDIA PhysX cloth material that's only there if you have an NVIDIA card and PhysX, so that he just, like, you're sprinting full pelt. There's no way you'd ever not be doing that. And he comes out so fast that all you have time to do is just press attack. And when you do, you kick him through the tarpaulin and you get to see it rip in just the right way. It's like, he has the worst job in video games. Like, I exist not only just to be killed, and I would be killed immediately, but the only reason I have to be killed is just so I can show off how good the cloth is that I'm kicked through before I die.
This is the cyberpunk future that faces it.
So they've, one of their big things is Faith doesn't use guns, and they specifically say, actually, in an interview that she's sworn not to use guns. It's like a personal principle.
Like
you
Batman.
can't pick up guns. And that actually, when Graham and I were saying last time we talked about this, that isn't what we wanted really. Like, the ability to shoot people wasn't the problem. It was the fact that they outright stopped you from progressing. You had to kill all the people before you were allowed to turn the valve, because the valve was too slow to turn otherwise.
It is possible
but
to
I'm okay.
beat Mirror's Edge without firing again.
Yeah, you have to defeat everyone. Like, there are areas where you've got to turn the valve. So I'm fine with it not having that, you know, what certainly wasn't the appeal of the game. And what they've replaced it with is some kind of, like, series of moves you can do to people that seem to involve, I mean, in the sort
Kicking
of,
them the fuck
in the
out a window.
CGI trailer, but if they're not next to a window, then you have to vault off walls and shit. But they talk about, like, a flow state that if you're doing a series of moves like that successfully, then you're in flow. And apparently when you're in flow, you're invulnerable to bullets. You literally can't be harmed by any number of bullets. No matter how many people are shooting at you, they just literally can't hurt you.
People only die from bullet wounds if they stop concentrating. Pay attention, you'll be fine.
If you screw up a punch, that's what really gets you. Which is weird. It'll probably, I mean, obviously, I don't imagine it being millions of bullets slam into Faith's body, but she's fine because she's moving fast. I'm sure they'll
whip past her in a dramatic way.
Yeah, it'll be, oh, she's moving so fast, we couldn't possibly shoot her. But it still
With these
seems
guns.
still seems very gamey to have such a hard and fast rule about, oh no, she's being too cool, we can't.
I think one of the great things about Mirror's Edge, the original, is that it provides a really natural sense of failure when you use the easy option. Like, standing still and shooting a man feels like you've just fucked up the game completely. and that's perfect. Like, your punishment isn't progress in the game. It's just, you're bad at this. You fucked it.
You know it. You feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it in the rattle of that shitty assault rifle.
Getting the achievement for doing it all without guns, and there's a bit at the end where you have to destroy a server farm. And the easy way to do it is to get a machine gun and shoot them. But then you realise that's why they've put a couple of guards with heavy machine guns in the middle of the level. Because if you do this amazing, like, parkour run around the outside, when they're trying to shoot you, they accidentally, like, strafe their entire own server farm. And so you do that sequence in this kind of really elegant run, and then you just run past them and up the stairs, and they've just done your job for you, and it feels great. And, like, how they didn't lose track of that in creating this kind of other, much gamier thing.
I mean, it can only be way, way better than having to press attack at the one frame of the animation where the attack is valid, and at all other frames you just get kind of knocked back weirdly, no matter how fast you're going, no matter how much velocity you had. Those are the same things.
What did you make of this year's appearance of The Division? A game that if you hadn't picked it up from the previous 8 or 9 times this has happened.
World premiere. World premiere of Division. It's a new game from Ubisoft. It looked nice as usual, and it was nice to see the unrealistically cool friends back again, who all talk to each other in
That's what they're actually
perfect
called.
way.
Like the Super Friends. Like,
I can't remember the guy's name.
fuck's sake, Megan.
But yeah,
Megan,
was the name.
Brannon,
It showed off that it's taken more inspiration from DayZ than was previously
Yeah,
apparent, in that you can be betrayed by people and they can take your stuff.
I think that's
at
sort
that
of...
point, my interest in it kind of evaporated, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Not that I hate DayZ. I do like DayZ, but it's the reason that works in DayZ structure is that there's no permanence to that world, and you're going to die anyway. It's more like a roguelike, whereas in this, which is an RPG with lots of progression, to which you are committed over the long haul. I can only imagine that losing 2 hours worth of play is going to just fuck me the fuck off.
Megan makes a really big deal of it.
No. Who does?
Megan does, when they encounter another group and they actually outnumber them and the guy wants to attack and Megan says, no, because like, even though we'll probably win, our loot is so valuable that we shouldn't even risk it. And then they lose all the loot because they get killed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that sounds shit.
Like, it did feel like afterwards, like, why the fuck would you ever play with that guy ever again? Like, the rest of those trailers, like, given that they star the, unrealistically cool friends, that was the end of the unrealistically cool friends. That was the season finale of
realistically shit friends.
Yeah,
Ryan.
But it's like,
Frick.
fucking hell, Brian. Like, it kind of implied that they're all friends in real life, particularly in the earlier trailers where you had, like,
I literally
where you
wouldn't
had
play with that person again.
second screen experience. Steve showed up with his fucking drone.
I forgot about Drone Steve.
And now at the end of the season finale, it turns out that Ryan was a prick all along.
Yeah.
But if we were all playing
show.
this game, and I turned out to be a prick all along, then you wouldn't play it with me again, because I had betrayed you. And like,
well, maybe that's their answer to this. Like, if you do play with friends, then they won't betray you because they'll know that you'll never play with them again.
but that's not what these games are for.
No, previously I looked at that game and thought, that looks like a nice thing I'll be able to do with my mates. And now I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to do that with my mates. I don't think
It
it's really,
incentivizes them to kill you.
I think I dislike it more because I had already conceived of the kind of joy that I'd had from that game, and that's not the kind of joy that's available to me. So regardless of whether there's some kind of alternative pleasure to gain from that scenario, it's already confounded my expectations in a way which has somehow written it off.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's chasing after the Destiny model for this sort of shared world RPG shooter thing, and there are ways in Destiny, I know it's constantly a bit true, but there are ways in Destiny where you can fuck over other players, to do with booting people from teams at certain points in order to get rewards for yourself or for your mates. And it's frowned on by Bungie, like it's bannable, well, not bannable, but like it's really like, you get on the fucking community blacklist and no one will ever, get banned from the Looking for Group sites and stuff like that. And that's that exact behavior in that demo. Like, that is exactly the thing that in a game that has the same structure and thrives because its community is built around cooperation, where fucking over your team is actually seen as not just, bad behavior within the context of the game world, but like actually community destroyingly bad. So how do they build them?
Yeah. Is it got Recon yet?
I want to talk about For Honor.
Oh yeah, we should talk about For Honor. Jason Vanderberg and his fucking amazing beard.
And his sword cane, presumably.
Jesus, yeah, he's like gaming's Alan Moore.
He is, he sort of showed up.
He's got a website called DarkLorde, with an E on the end, DarkLorde. And
as in, like, the New Zealand singer-songwriter.
yeah, it's DarkLorde, yeah. I think he probably had the domain before she came on the scene.
Well,
but
she was born, probably.
It has, at the top, it's a black website, and on the top it's got, Welcome, Traveller.
Yes, that guy.
It's that
he showed
guy.
up to shame every man with a beard at E3.
He did. He was fucking rad. That was, I think that was probably one of the hands down best.
Yeah. Oh god. Like
presentations.
It's
a sword combat game. We should say that.
It's like a game in which you can grip your sword by the blade and dig the hilt into someone's brain.
Yeah, I don't quite sure how that works without lacerating your fingers, but
so it looks a bit like 4v4 Chivalry, actually, but with maybe more Dark Souls-y combat. It's not first person. It looks fucking great. I mean, people who listen to this know that I'm a big old sucker for sword fighting in games, but that looks fucking rad. I'll play. I signed up for the beta while watching the Ubisoft conference because I was like, so it's got like 3 factions of like samurai, sort of European knights and Vikings, and it looks like just like mass sieges. It might have some kind of like light kind of AI element like Titanfall as well, because it seemed like there was an army around you, even though you had your 4v4.
it looks like you're kind of assisting an AI flood, which would probably be otherwise kept in equilibrium, much like a MOBA. So yeah, we'll see. I love the look of it.
Yeah, and play the shit out of that. I was wondering what happens if a third player shows up to one of those duels, though, because it really felt like those two characters were locked into a duel with each other. And I want the game where you can just show up and fucking kill the guy that your mate's fighting.
I think at one point 2 people do go 2-on-1, or it threatens to go 2-on-1, and then I think your ally gets killed. But it looks like he swing. I mean, he gives it a go to try and gank the lone player. But
Man, I want to play that. I want to play that really badly. Ghost Recon.
yeah,
Wildlands.
That does look really good.
Yeah, it does look really good. I love Ghost Recon. I've always loved Ghost Recon.
Why?
Apart from all the bad Ghost Recons. Because when Ghost
Bad
Recon...
Ghosts Recon.
It's a lot like Rainbow Six. It followed a similar trajectory in that when it first came out, it was actually quite a strategic, tactical game.
I think I remember the first one.
And then Xbox happened, and COD happened, and it suddenly became this horrible kind of bro-fisting kind of back on me, let's kill loads of Mexicans kind of thing.
I think that was the subtitle for one of them, actually.
Yeah. And just cinematics, and all every environment ended up being just this kind of gun funnel, and it was no fun. But the original game had a lot of situations where, well, at least the original games on the original Xbox, I think up until Ghost Recon 2, had very, very large environments for that time, and just enemies dotted around them, and you had to take objectives any way you could. And it seems like they're
bringing that into the modern age.
They really are. Open world, you can fucking dive from the sky. There's a word for that.
Skydive.
Skydive. Yeah.
An obtuse term. But...
onto giant mountains somewhere in South America, I think. And, yeah, fuck up drug dealers.
I think I was really excited by it. I don't know how much of that excitement comes from the fact that I'm a huge fan of Covert Affairs, which is a TV show about a CIA spy, and there's a sequence where they drop down into a mountain range that looks exactly like that and spend ages scoping out the enemy encampment and stuff, and just all that stuff really excites me. But yeah, it looked like it had like vehicles and shit, and
it seems it has
they showed
a lot
stealth
of
route and
the kind of Shadow of Mordor thing where you've got some kind of ecosystem of drug dealers that you then disassemble by making them fight each other, or in some way.
An ecosystem of drug dealers being disassembled.
Yeah,
that's the most video gamey thing.
Yeah, I mean, cynically, it's just all of the different Ubisoft games. it's Rainbow Six plus Far Cry plus The Crew plus like Assassin's Creed style kind of like capturing nodes kind of thing. But fine, like if they're going to make this kind of cool multiplayer co-op open world thing that you complete with your mates over a couple of days, then rad. Yeah, would play. Star Wars Battlefront.
Looks hot.
Looks beautiful. Looks really, really nice. I think those trailers sort of have that Battlefield thing of like, there's gonna be a bit where I'm running along and I fire my gun and I duck behind a rock and then there's an X-Wing and then I'm like, wow! And then that happens like 15 times and eventually you realise the game itself isn't very good and you move on. Which is Battlefield like the last two of them, right? And I'm a bit concerned about that, honestly, because like, I think a lot of the actually long-term competitive viability of Battlefield really drained out of the series in its pursuit for spectacle. But holy shit, that game looks good. Looks good, I mean, like as in with your eyes.
I kind of think that Battlefield's problem wasn't necessarily its desire for spectacle so much as its popularity. Do you think that's true? And the fact
Don't they go hand in hand?
Well,
as with all cheapening processes.
Yeah, but there was in the game design as well. There weren't enough systems to encourage you to play based on the objectives that would actually win you the game. So you have a lot of people, Wookiees, actually. That's what they're called, isn't it? When you get people sitting at the back in your fucking Chewbacca-style ghillie suit, sniping, rather than taking objectives. And the game just didn't bother to address that over, like, three iterations. And I don't know what they've done in this.
They will let the Wookiee win.
They'll let the Wookiee win.
I worry a little bit that it might feel like a theme park.
Yeah.
Because apparently the AT-ATs are on a fixed path and you can control their guns, but you can't actually kind of control them.
It's because they make no sense as a military vehicle.
Yeah. At all. It's cool that you can wrap their legs up with string, but it's kind of like, oh, that thing in the film, let's do the thing in the film. Yeah. I've done it now.
That's what I mean. Like, you play it 3 times and it'll feel amazing, then you'll move on, but I'll buy it for that probably. Just a gigantic nerd. Something that did sound cool actually is that, I don't know if you heard this, Patrick Back, explain what's going on in like the background of the maps, because obviously the maps are a lot smaller than the battles they'd have picked, where in the background you have like Corellian corvettes getting blown up by Star Destroyers and stuff like that. Apparently they have removed essentially the kind of ticket meter, the which side is winning meter from the UI and put it in the game world. What's happening in the surrounding battle with the Star Destroyers and all those huge ships will reflect who's winning on the ground. So like if you see a Star Destroyer come plummeting down, that's because the rebels are winning.
Right.
Which I think is actually fucking rad, because it plays to that game's, like we just said, its selling point, which is just the theme park ride of like, wow!
That's a good theme park ride.
It's the Universal Studios tour, but I will go there.
Mm-hmm.
Tour that studio.
Actually, on
Tour that studio and you won.
Speaking of tour, the Old Republic still exists.
Very good.
Thanks.
Good segue to thing. That's interesting.
This is so basically there's going to be a proper tour expansion, and it's free, and it's called Knights of Fallen Empire, and it stars twins that do things that twins do in Star Wars, which is fall out and then become Jedi and fight.
I like the fact that they made that bold decision to have two leads who are both white, bald men.
But they are twins of each other, but yes, but nonetheless, the thing that weirded me out about that was I was pretty sure Tor was dead. And the thing is, Star Wars: The Old Republic is a genuinely good game, or especially it was before free to play. And it still is. If you pay for a subscription, it has, parts, substantial parts of its writing are on a par, if not better than Knights of the Old Republic and its sequel. BioWare made 8 new KOTOR sequels, and some of them are better than others, but they made all of them. And all of them take a little bit too long to play because the MMO stuff, but genuinely massively valued my time going through that game. Really do a huge amount of respect for what they achieved with it. Even what they achieved was fucking dumb. And totally a mismatch for the genre they decided to make the game within. But what they achieved was great. And I thought it was petering along for a long time. And I wrote something about it recently about what state it was in, because it just had its latest, they've had a lot of mini expansions. And the first one was a side story that actually did follow on from the game, and the rest of them have felt really theme parky. The last one was all about Revan, who's the player character from previous game, and it's it felt like a mega kind of remember this, please come back and pay some money to see some characters and we'll bring back HK-47 and we'll do lots of things. Please don't leave. And it felt really desperate. And to see them roll out with a really expensive looking CGI trailer and a genuinely new branch of that narrative, it felt like occupying the parallel universe where that game was a huge success.
We're going to pretend for a while that game was a huge success.
Yeah, and it actually has, I might go back. I might go and play it again because I'm genuinely interested in what state is this in if they are doing this? BioWare Austin basically closed and I know there are people left maintaining that game, but that Shadow Realms, the other game they were making, BioWare's big other MMO project, cancelled. All of the kind of the signs pointed towards EA BioWare's big MMO experiment being a failure, and now this. So I have no comment on its quality, but I think it's really interesting that it exists.
I would love to play a director's cut of The Old Republic, where I just get to play through the story and kind of skip the combat a little bit. Because actually, I played a preview and I played, I think, 2 different classes. But the Imperial Agent, I was really into the story and I really wanted to be that person and explore that.
Great. The end of the Imperial Agent arc is one of the best. The Imperial Agent has a couple of moments that are among the most interesting decisions BioWare have ever put in a game, in terms of the potential political situation you occupy is mega interesting, and there's one near the start that makes you really interestingly deconstructs this. The Empire is evil, right? thing, and it places you as basically the guy in the intelligence services for a government that is fundamentally fucking insane. But at that point, not that weirdly unbelievable anymore. The Sith seem so unbelievable, but if you put yourself in the shoes of the intelligence agent that has to deal with their shit, it suddenly becomes really endearing in a way. You're this kind of secular civic authority working for this crazy religious authoritarian group. And then the end of the story, when it kind of ties all that stuff up, it's great. It really is genuinely great. And it's getting a sequel, so cool. But basically, it's interesting that it exists, but God knows why. Hitman. Just Hitman.
Yeah, I don't like that. I always hate that.
Hitman Zero.
Give it. I'd rather have the stupid subtitle, what was it? Zero Dawn.
We'll get there.
idiotic subtitles that games come up with, than just nothing. I just feel like there's already a game called that. Call it
What do
something.
you think of the game, though?
They're saying the right things. They're saying it's going to be all about freedom of approach, and they're saying it's going to be on a much bigger scale, and they're interested in kind of updating it with new content, which I don't really care about. I don't really care when you give me the content, but the fact that it is modular enough for you to add on to it afterwards suggests that it's not going to be an Absolution-style strict narrative.
Right, yeah.
I mean, Absolution was just so far from what I want from Hitman, and it was just focused on like, oh, we just really want to tell a story. We just really want to like a cinematic story where you really follow 47's journey
Have you
through
ever
these
played your own
dealing
games?
with these fucking idiots. And so most of the missions in Hitman Absolution are just to get to a door. It's just, you've got to get to the door. And in many cases, when you get to the door, it plays a cutscene of you assassinating the person that you're to assassinate. And then in some of the cutscenes, you fuck it up. It's just like, oh my god. So it doesn't sound like they're doing that again. And you can throw a crowbar, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
They, it sounds like they're going deeper onto the like contracts thing where you set up your own hits, because it sounds like they're setting up like just big environments, and then there'll be some kind of default mission within those. But hopefully they are open-ended enough that setting up new hits within that space will be interesting.
It's one of those things, like, hopefully, to return to the point of the death of the late noughties, the notion that Hitman needs a story is a completely false one.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've played a decent amount of Blood Money, and I don't remember what that game is about at all.
Yeah.
Like,
that was the genius of that.
I remember
version,
individual
yeah.
missions, but, and, you know, indie development for years now has proved that you can make a game about just being in a particular job over time. FTL is Space Captain, the game, and it doesn't need has a driving force, but no particular plot, really. Hitman could just be a game where you pick missions from a world map, and your job is Hitman. And it's right there in the title. Like, you are Hitman.
Hit the man, come
now
on.
you've got to go hit the man. And that's fine. And it doesn't need to be any more than that. At the moment, it's fucking the tragedy of being a mute clone murderer man. It's just, God, fuck it.
The great genius of Blood Money was not that it had a good plot, and not even that it ditched the plot, because it didn't, but it just kept the plot separate. It was just there. In between the missions, you watch a cutscene where a guy's telling a story about a mission you did, and then you just play the fucking mission. And it doesn't matter what the plot was. You don't have to do a scripted scene about it.
With that in mind, how do we feel about what was revealed for Deus Ex? The actual subtitle is Mankind Divided. But woo!
Yes.
Cucumbers confirmed.
Cucumbers confirmed.
Many cucumbers, apparently.
I won't bang on about the PC Gaming Showcase too much, because obviously it's kind of like our thing, but I love that we quietly had the first ever, like, just proper contiguous in-game footage of that game. And we talked about cucumbers. Just over it. Like, talked about cucumbers.
I fucking love, I forget his full name.
Jonathan
JJB.
Jack Spelletet.
Yeah, Adam Jensen, the real one.
Adam Jensen, yeah. He's so interesting to hear talk about just the set dressing, basically how he designs those levels.
Yeah.
For the eye rather than for design. You know?
Yeah, and that was kind of the star of the footage they showed, actually. Like, the big... I wouldn't say they showed anything massively interesting mechanics-wise that I didn't know about already. But just seeing those environments...
You can stun people with your knuckles now, with your electric knuckles.
Yeah, that was actually in the reveal trailer. Like, you had the multi-taser thing and firing a fist chisel, wasn't that in the original trailer as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there was any big mechanical revelations, but just seeing, like, it being played like a game and the environments look like that, it's like, holy shit. I mean, Deus Ex, like, Human Revolution already hinted at that, and had some really beautiful places, but this does generally look like a step up from that.
The big thing for me was, like, I hate vision modes, but they have obviously changed the way that vision mode works.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to be power-based. It seemed like it'd be a thing that flashes up.
Like
and also just the way it presented the world seemed more like someone scanning for, like, electronics and implants and people than, like, the, my big problem with the Human Revolutions one was, it was just the highlight game mechanics mode.
Yeah.
It was the show me what I can interact with mode, and I don't need to bang on about it more than I already have on multiple episodes.
One interesting thing from that playthrough was that he used invisibility or whatever stealth system he has for a protracted period of time. Which wasn't possible, really, in Human Revolution. And he also didn't then have to eat a whole load of chocolate bars afterwards. So obviously they've done, unless that was completely canned for the purpose of the demo, they presumably changed the entire kind of recharge system.
Same with the zombies, what we were saying. Like, those kinds of, like, stock up my mana things, so...
Yeah.
I don't know, eating real power bars, any mana bars.
Yeah, exactly.
They did actually change it for... Was it the director's cut, or was it the iPad game? In one of them, they changed how many pips recharge and made it more generous, so you could do more melee takedowns and stuff. There was one bit in it that gave me slight pause where... I mean, it's a very trailery thing, but Jensen is running away from gunfire, and then he jumps to catch the helicopter that's, for some reason, taken off already, even though he hasn't quite there. And just makes it, and then people are shooting at him, and then, like, there's, you know, a cutscene of the boss man telling his guards not to shoot. And it's like, if this is Deus Ex, what's the stealthy way of doing that? Like, if there's a cutscene of them shooting at you as you run to the helicopter,
I would say,
are they going to force you to do that?
I really hope they do multiple cutscenes.
The whole mechanical apartheid thing just seems to me to be crazy implausible. The idea that suddenly people with mechanical amendments, augmentations to their bodies would somehow become like a lesser people who would be prejudiced against. It's the same stupidity as happens in the X-Men, where you've got these rad fucking cool mutant powers and everybody's like, oh no, this is an allegory for racism. And you're like, well no, clearly it can't work like that because everybody in our world thinks the X-Men are really fucking cool. So they'd be really cool in their world as well.
The other thing is that it's, on that level, yes, but also just on a social political level, like, there's no, so the point of the augmentations, and also equally the point of mutation in X-Men, is that everybody would know somebody who that had happened to. Like, regardless of their own background or nationality or ethnicity, people would know, like, oh, my cousin got implants, or, you know, my cousin is a mutant, or whatever. And that basically dismantles a lot of the things that cause racism, because racism is a lot about
a lack of empathy.
Yeah, or historical territorialism, or something else. Like,
othering.
Othering over time. And,
I think trying to analogize it to racism is a really bad idea and just doesn't hold up. But I am kind of interested in it. Like, we don't really know what the story is exactly, but I like the idea of just flipping it, because in Human Revolution, the tension was like, well, it's just not fair. These people are so much better than us. It's like, you know, that was the tension.
Yeah, but that's the interesting
tension. It was
that's the
rich-poor divide. The rich people all went for augmentations because, of course, you want to be augmented. And so flipping that, and then, like, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe I don't have a good analogy for it, but the idea that just a social change can happen where suddenly that thing is just seen as what was previously like, oh, but it makes me better, so it's automatically good. And then it's suddenly seen as, well, now you're impure because you modified your body. And we don't think like that today, but it's not impossible for me to imagine a cultural shift where suddenly that just becomes kind of dirty. Like, it's just become like, oh, you've fucked yourself up permanently. And there's something kind of compelling about that. Like, it's a little bit horrific that you might have made some permanent change to your body that suddenly just goes out of fashion, and then you're an outcast. Like
tattoos. Exactly the same as tribal tattoos.
I was going to try and connect it to tattoos, and I couldn't think of a way to do it. So.
XCOM 2 also exists.
Ooh.
And is set in a dystopian future where you are fighting back against a vicious new status quo. In this case, aliens are here, but everyone loves them now.
Snake women.
They confirmed...
Snaky boobs.
They confirmed what we speculated about last time. Not the snaky boobs. But, so it's set in a future where aliens took over. And I think we were saying, like, oh, it'd be cool if they just kind of took it as canon that you fucked up XCOM, because XCOM was really hard. And they do. That's exactly what they say. Like, we're just assuming you failed at XCOM, because most people did. So, we're carrying on from that. And if you fail at XCOM, then the aliens take over. And they also do a very effective PR campaign in which they convince the populace to think that they are, the victims of a terrible and unjust reaction from the human populace, and that now they're here to help us all out.
But things look kind of nice.
Like, yeah, it looks like a nice
maybe
dystopia.
They should be in charge.
Almost every dystopia I look at it and think, yeah, I like to live there. That looks way better than what we have. But so they did show they showed kind of playing a mission on the IGN stream, and it turned out to be massively contrived in that after the stream, they then had to explain all the things that happened in that stream that would never happen in the game, because aliens would show up and get a free shot at you, and that doesn't happen. And this character the snake lady killed an XCOM character who was in cover and who had no chance to react to it. She, sucked him out with, a tongue thing, and then snaked around him and then instantly killed him, and that was just, he was out now. And then they had to explain afterwards, oh no, that actually can't happen. He'd have to be on low health, and it takes her 2 turns. You'd have to tongue him in 1 turn and then snake him in the other turn. I can't think of a way to make that sound not dirty. And then, yeah, a bunch of other stuff that turned to be contrived. And so, they also had like an upgraded brute kind of run along and smash one of your crew and one of your XCOM people, and they very cinematically hit a bus.
That is the most E3 phrase I can imagine. That was the thing that, like, there was a moment also at the end where, like, the brute kind of, like, charged at them as they were getting on the Sky Ranger, and they kind of just missed, and, like, the way the Sky Ranger came down between the buildings.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it was largely
earnestly love it if they found ways to incorporate mini cutscenes that kind of express the drama of the situation within the simulation. But at the same time, this E3 urge to kind of, like, fudge part of the demo so that it looks more like a film, just fucking stop it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So it's got, like, an interesting mechanic in that when you start a level, you're not detected by the aliens automatically, and there's kind of an area that's the hazard zone, and until you go into that, they're not going to come and seek you out, they're not going to attack you, and you're basically safe. But that zone kind of changes because the aliens are patrolling around, and in fact, it's not really the aliens, it's the, what do they call it, Advent? The human soldiers, the Advent calendar are out to get you. And like all Advent calendars, they move around. But it's kind of largely up to you when you strike, and so what they showed was setting up, putting 2 of you guys in ambush and then having a 3rd person do the attack, so that when they attack, the enemies get like a sort of, they don't get quite as much of a response as they used to in XCOM, but they're allowed to move a little bit. And when they do move, now your 2 Overwatch guys shoot at them automatically, so you kind of get 3 attacks all at once. That was cool.
It's interesting because that is actually it's a way of incorporating into the game in a way that makes sense. Something that you can do in Enemy Unknown that doesn't make sense. Where if you know roughly when you're going to trigger an enemy spawn and you have guys in Overwatch, they will respond to it. But it requires you gaming the way that the game deploys enemies when you uncover them. And so they're inverting that makes complete sense and is very, very clever because it preserves the strategy from Enemy Unknown but makes it not gaming the system anymore.
They say that this time around, like, all the aliens are upgraded, and so just an alien existing, just even being on the field is just a huge deal. So, like, a mission would be you mostly fighting Advent dudes, and then one alien shows up at the end, and that's, like, the boss. Which is interesting.
Yeah, looks really good.
Did you see the guy on TV who's defending the aliens? Who's just hilariously, obviously a thin man. Like, he's got the kind of speckles all down his neck. Oh, yeah. It's just, like, very obviously an alien.
Yeah, it's not, the bid for government isn't convincing, but in the aftermath of the last British election, I don't know how to judge those things anymore, so we'll just go with it. Next we have, in terms of unconvincing modes of regime change, Just Cause 3.
Yeah, that's what that game is about. That looks cool. They tried their best to make it boring. They really had a go at making
Oh my god, that trailer. Like any other thing, you'd be like, oh my god, they showed like 8 minutes of the game and explained all of the features. What a great E3. But somehow, Amanda's listing a laundry list of things.
Just Cause 3 is a massive open world.
And he tried to explain it all in the same voice, except when he had to really sell it, at which point it wasn't very convincing.
I watched it again with the sound off, because there's no way to kind of get rid of him, so I just, like, muted the entire soundtrack, which meant I heard none of the music, none of the sound effects, and just played my own music over it, and it was fucking amazing, and I noticed, like, 10 things I didn't see before, just, like, loads of details and cool things you can do, and, like, physics-driven destruction and more cool rope things. Like, that guy's voice actually blinded me to what was good about the game.
No other game offers a parachute this stable.
Someone posted a GIF on Reddit earlier that I don't think is from that video. I think it must be some other footage out there where Rico grapples onto, like, the head of a really tall statue, shoots towards it, and then just before he's about to reach his grapple point, activates the wingsuit, which just kind of buffers him over it enough to go over its head, and then just kind of soars up into the air, and it just looks fucking amazing. It's a really beautiful movement mechanic. And it kind of needs that, like, one of my biggest hopes for it, though, they didn't really confirm either way, is one of my biggest complaints about Just Cause 2, it sounds petty, but it really, really affects it, is that you fall so slowly. even without any parachute, any grappling hook at all, you just fall so slowly, it's comically slow. When you actually hit the ground, it looks like it wouldn't even hurt. You just drift down, because they want you to have plenty of time to, like, aim the grapple and activate the parachute if you like. But it's like, it's a game with a parachute. If I want to fall slowly, there's a device specifically for that. And hopefully the wingsuit will mean, like, anything that you might have wanted to do with angling your fall and having air control is all kind of shuffled onto that. And then actually falling, I hope, will be fast. Because that was, like, Just Cause 1 had no tethering ability. All you could do is latch onto vehicles and use a parachute, and that was it. And that was a fucking amazing game. And it was partly amazing because what you're doing was so incredible, like, so extreme and ridiculous and absurd. And it felt amazing and dangerous and cool because you fell at a normal rate, and it would be fucking fatal if you didn't use your parachute. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it will. I have less high hopes for their Mad Max, but...
Yeah. Yeah, they showed that at E3, didn't they? Didn't look particularly interesting.
I think in the aftermath of a really great new Mad Max movie, it's really hard to then make a game that is very brown. Finally, the news, very welcome news, in my opinion, that No Man's Sky, or No Man's Ski, as we like to call it, is coming to PC day and date with the PlayStation, because that was a concern for a while, because it had been such a staple of Sony conferences for so long.
Yeah, they were being very, very coy about it for a very long time.
He's a coy man, Sean Murray. Naturally coy, behind a veil of shyness.
It looked cool again. I mean, the trick that they showed, I mean, if you'd never seen it before, the main thing you'd notice, you'd be impressed by, was the zooming out into the infinite galaxy, but they kind of have shown that before, and kind of, you know that now. That's what the game is. And so it's kind of, increasingly, the more they show that, the more it comes down to, yeah, but how different are the planets, and how interesting are they relative to each other? And they didn't really show anything that was mind-blowing in that sense in this latest video. But they did get more into the mechanics, like, you apparently shoot rocks and they turn into resources, and then you suck those up, and then you find a beacon, and then when you go to the beacon, anything new you've discovered gets uploaded to some central database, I guess. One slight concern I have about it is that on that planet, he does that, and he goes to a central beacon and uploads his discoveries, which in itself is a little bit weird. Like, why is that beacon there? If it's a game about discovering new planets and being the first person ever to find this, there's already technology there to log your discoveries, which is kind of like, spoils the fantasy a bit. And then if you kill too many animals, the, like, galactic space police show up and stomp after you in a mech. And I didn't totally understand whether that was, like, because this planet is already civilized in some way, or if that's just something that happens everywhere. Because again, if that happens everywhere, it kind of spoils the pioneer feel of being, I'm the first person ever here, and I discovered it.
It's interesting, because I'm taking it on faith that genuinely was, a random choice for that demo. When it was, because it was portrayed as like, we've rehearsed this, but the point of this demo was we're going to go to a random planet and see what we find. And I think, unless it is some crazy bit of showmanship, like the bit where he seems slightly disappointed that he's done the scan and there's no alien life. It's like, oh, we found something without very much terrestrial life. Even though it felt a bit like, okay, so the experience of this game is going to be going places and doing the same sorts of activities and maybe not finding cool things constantly, I found massively reassuring in a way. Because the thing about the first No Man's Sky trailer is that I loved the look of it and I loved the premise, but I was really put off by the kind of sudden arrival of a trailer-friendly dinosaur. In a way that kind of felt very staged and felt very like, this is what this is the fucking pitch for the game, but it is not the game. Whereas that moment where he scans, like, it's nothing here, felt like the game. And then you go back to space and you go off and do space things. And I think different people have different amounts of patience for just doing space things repetitively forever. Elite Dangerous survives because it's a game about repetitively doing things that just sort of feel like occupying a world. And if you can nail that, I don't really care that it's sort of repetitive, maybe.
Yeah.
But I was just delighted to see it look like a real game that you could play.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's do some questions now.
Let's do them. JR says, hello. Actually, he doesn't. He says, dear CNC. I don't know why he said hello. Sorry, JR. Only the first few words that he's spoken. I'm already putting words in his mouth. Anyway, he says he loved the discussion about gynophobia. Gynophobia, not gynophobia. Gynophobia. And Steam refunds. But he says an issue went unexplored, namely that players might now have a running clock in their heads when playing a game for the first time, and how...
I thought I did specifically say that.
And how that might affect their experience for them. But he goes on to explain in greater depth. He says that Dan Gilbert did a really good TED talk some time ago about artificial happiness, which he summarises. He describes a great deal of scientific evidence that shows that we fundamentally misunderstand our own happiness, and that future events will have very little impact on it for good or ill. And even that having more choice can sabotage your brain's own attempt to manufacture happiness in this way. Applying this to refunds, this may explain the common feature of the internet we all dread, the individual that has dropped a substantial amount of money on something and will now defend it to the hilt. This person isn't, if Gilbert is to be believed, simply trying to justify his purchase by silencing dissent, but actively enjoys their purchase more than they otherwise would, simply because they no longer have the option of taking it back, and feels that disagreement with that belief must be incorrect. More broadly, the idea, if true, undermines our idea of video games as being a series of interesting decisions, as most of the time, giving someone a binary choice with a possible, via quick-loading, way to take it back works against the player's enjoyment. This also explains the fondness for games with Iron Man modes and roguelikes among the gaming diaspora. When a choice is for keeps in some way, your brain works overtime to ensure you enjoy the results, even if they weren't what you hoped. So, to my question then, how much do you feel that the kind of thinking described above might affect people's enjoyment of games in light of refunds? And how much do games in general stand to benefit from outright locking away content, at least in the short term, based on your decision making? Thanks for putting up with all that rambling, JR. That's a lot shorter than many of the questions we receive.
So. I noticed the short ones always apologise for rambling too long.
Yeah, really interesting.
That's a good point. I apologise for interrupting. I've actually seen that TED Talk that he's talking about, and it's frighteningly true. At the time, I didn't see the relevance, and then recently I bought a thing online, and then thinking it was the best thing of its type, and then later found out that there was a better thing of its type, and had I known that existed, I would have bought it. But just before I found that out, I was so happy with my new purchase. It was just like, oh, this is so much better than the last thing, it's so great. And then when I found out it was a better one, suddenly it was just poisoned. Like, oh, but there's a better one, and it's got these minorly better features, and the price difference is like not that much. So eventually I took it back and I got the new one. And now I'm a terrible person. There's a Frasier episode about this as well, where they have like a massage parlour, and there's like a gold members door, and then they eventually get in the gold members door, and there's like a platinum door, and then the platinum door just turns out to be like a back alley. I don't know that all of Steam users are going to have refunds in the back of their head at all times. I mean, it'll apply to some people, but
yeah,
I kind of think that hopefully if the games are doing their job, you're not really thinking about that once you start playing.
Yeah, how about content in general being just kind of locked behind your choices? I wonder if games are sophisticated enough to make that satisfying. I think a lot of the time that the choices are irritating in games when they're permanent is because you don't feel like you're properly equipped, or the
force
of the game
against you.
Yeah, or they just didn't describe itself well enough to make a decision.
I was thinking about this, so there's, I need to wander briefly into console territory to explain a recent thought about this that I've had.
Dear God.
Can I, if I can be forgiven? There is a really fierce debate at the moment in the Destiny community about, this is going to sound boring, vault space, which is the amount of inventory space you're given to keep the guns and armor that you've collected over the course of the game.
No, please continue. Right, that does sound really interesting.
No, it actually is in terms of game design and player experience, because essentially it's very limited in that game. And it's limited because of the constraints of the last gen consoles that the game also supports. And so it creates these kind of weird factional divisions. And there's a lot of debate about it. It's a question that it's constantly leveled at the game developers. Because the game would become a very different game if you had unlimited vault space. And all it is space to record, item data. It should be unlimited. If it was a PC game, it would be unlimited. But if it was unlimited, it'd become a very different game because it would remove a choice aspect, which is when you get something, you really have to destroy something else. And you have to justify that to yourself. You have to explain why this thing that you maybe in the first really rare item you ever got is worth destroying for its component parts to make space for the hot new stuff from the expansion. And it's added this completely different dimension to loot, where getting something mega rare also means sacrificing something, because everybody runs out of fucking space. And you don't need all of this stuff. You don't need all this stuff to progress in the game, but collecting it is sort of the point. It's why you do the hard modes, and it's why you play the game, is to gather the cool new stuff. But because of this weird technical limitation, they've ended up with a situation where gather all the stuff, which in any other circumstance would be the happy kind of banner goal of the game. Like, who's got the best collection of stuff? Has become this really fraught thing where people are kind of like, what do I destroy in order to have the new thing? And that's really interesting because it fundamentally changes the nature of the game in quite a fundamental way. And it kind of relates to this because you find yourself, after you've destroyed something, resolutely, justifying it to yourself.
Huh.
That was the right thing to do. That, like, you know, I have a really good collection of capes. This is not going to be a surprise. But I have a really substantially impressive cape collection.
Mm-hmm.
And I have capes going back to launch. And because of the way the game, with every expansion, changes the inventory of certain, you know, vendors and so on and loot points within the game, it means that something you might have got when the game launched is no longer available at all. It cannot drop, it cannot be bought, it can't be found. So if something, even if it's a completely innocuous item, existed between September and December last year, you can no longer get it. And I had like 2 of them that had different names, but the same, 2 capes, different names from launch, same look, and I deleted one of them. But that's gone forever now. And I justified it to myself because I needed the space, and I had this other cape that looked the same, but it wasn't exactly the same. And there's no way for my fucking digital space guy to acquire the same packet of data ever again. And I was justifying it to myself, well, I can fit one of the new capes in now. And it was like, this is on the weirdest fucking psychological kind of like, you know, making myself happy by justifying my decision things that I've ever done.
One of the saddest things ever. They just kind of made a misery machine. Just kind of manufactures regrets.
Like, in a game that I genuinely love and appreciate massively, it's one of the massive fucking black spots that it currently has. Is that it has this one system within it that makes all of its other systems a form of punishment. Which is kind of an amazing, and it forces its players through this psychological gauntlet of, okay, I've got this new rad thing, but now that I have it, my inventory is full, and I can't just dump them somewhere. So, who am I going to delete? Which, and in a game where, like so many RPGs, like a good loot-based RPG should be, where every cool, rare drop you get, not just represents this, you know, power spike for your character, but represents this experience that you should remember, because you see that loot and you go, I remember when I got that by doing this hard quest or something. It's basically like, which souvenir am I deleting to make space for the new one? And that's such a stupid thing to make players do.
Yeah.
Basically, I want more vault space. That's what I'm saying. Bungie.
It's amazing how much looking at stats and things, kind of convincing yourself the new item is better, how much the numbers play into that. Like, in Diablo, I can convince myself that this new axe that does technically only 5% extra DPS, I can convince myself I'm really feeling that extra 5%. And I know I'm not, because now that I'm making games, I have to deal with this and have to be on the other end of it. I have to figure out how to, you know, make people appreciate an upgrade. And in Heat Signature, you can, like, just very early prototype of, like, item loot systems, you can get a new thruster for your ship that actually makes it, like, twice as powerful. It's dramatically more powerful, like, spectacularly more powerful. And I know this. And when I get it, I feel fucking amazing. And I zoom around the galaxy and I feel great. And the feedback I get about it is like, I don't really notice any difference when I get the upgrades. Because it doesn't tell you any numbers. It just, you've got it says like, oh, now you're like a level 6 thruster instead of a level 5 thruster. But it doesn't tell you it's 100% better. And it is 100% better. And people say they can't tell the difference. Because I didn't tell them what the numbers are. And so, we just pay attention to the numbers. The numbers are what make you feel the difference.
I'm not sure I have an answer to this beyond that, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, in a way, I think there's probably a worthwhile game to be made out of making people factor loss, you know, like into a kind of game experience where you have to destroy things. I don't think it's Destiny, Vault Space, Bungie. But, I'd love the game that trained people out of just looking at the numbers, but.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to affect people. I think it probably does affect, I don't know, I mean, in terms of the refund system.
Have you...
Just the prospect of being able to return something is going to make people more willing to be critical of something within its first hands. Like, they're going to, even if, like, I know you mean, Tom, they're probably not going to be sitting there thinking, well, I've got to make a judgment on this within 2 hours, tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. But they're probably going to be thinking more critically about it rather than just enjoying the experience.
Yeah, I think if you stop playing for some other reason within the first 2 hours, maybe between then, when you next play, you might reflect on the fact of, oh, actually, I haven't played that for more than 2 hours, so right now I could return it. And that makes you question that 1.5 hours that you've played more than you otherwise would.
I just think you're probably going to be approaching games generally more with a view to potentially earning your money back. And that may kind of just, it's just not good to have that in your mind necessarily when you're enjoying a piece of art.
It's certainly we talked about the creative limitations of that before when we talked about it punishing short games. But also, actually, and I don't think there's ever been an instance of a game with a particularly lengthy or slow intro that we've actively praised. You know what I mean? But there are games that get better after their 5th or 6th hour or something that maybe deserve the chance to survive that 2-hour period. I mean, the other side of it is it depends massively on how that choice is presented to the player. I mean, think about it. Think if in today, in the era of maybe 5 years of Steam sales or however long it's been, you were given just a list on Steam, and it was every game you owned, and it was whether it was refund viable, based on how much time you've played. Obviously there's that 15-day or whatever it is limit factored in, but even without that, if you could look at your Steam library and see how many games you hadn't played, or you played for 10 minutes and closed, everybody in the world would probably just click down that list and go like, yep, refund, refund. Suck the money back out of the system and be sitting on hundreds of pounds worth of money to spend on free games. Mm-hmm. If it's presented as easy in that way and really straightforward to immediately draw your money back, then I think that's a very different proposition to it being a kind of support request thing that you're technically entitled to, but wouldn't necessarily do. It's basically how normal does it become, basically. In
general, I want people to only keep my game if they like it, and if they don't like it, they should just get their money back. But then the thing of somebody buys it planning to play it, and they never get around to playing it, and then they refund it because they just didn't play it, without having made any judgment of the game or having tried it or given it any chance, that feels kind of damn. That's annoying. And I want to think that, in the perfect utopia where refunds are so well known and so overused, or so, people are so ready to use them, that no one who owns Gunpoint didn't enjoy it. Every single person who was in any way dissatisfied got their money back, and everyone who owns Gunpoint, is completely satisfied with it, or thoroughly satisfied and glad they spent their money. I like to think that in that world I would still have a job and I'd still be able to sustain my...
Do you know who wouldn't have a job in that world? Me.
That's true.
Shit.
But there's also, it's so true that it's a comedy cliche that people just have masses of stuff in their Steam library they've never played. And so we have their money and they've got no value from us. Us developers, we have taken their money and given them, we've given them something in return, but they haven't used it yet. And so if all those people got their money back, that would be a hell of a day.
Nope, nose star. Possibly no Esther, or possibly nose tar. I think he filled in the mail registration form by putting a first name and last name and said nope, nose. But 4 letters wasn't enough, so he had to put tar in. I don't know. Anyway, maybe it's a real name. Maybe it's No Pay No A Star from some South American country I haven't heard of.
Keep going. Just don't stop.
Love your show, but guys, he says.
Guys?
Well, he capitalizes guys.
Okay.
In episode 93, you talk about the suspension-shattering moment of Bruce Willis ramping a police car off a concrete embankment into a low-flying helicopter, and how stupid and impossible that is. Sadly, that scene is actually a practical effect. They suspended a helicopter. I'm trying to give the intonation here because he capitalizes things at random. They suspended a helicopter from Hawaii. This is true. Who knows what No Pay's gender is. They suspended a helicopter from a wire and actually remote controlled the modified car. They welded the steel plate to the undercarriage so it wouldn't gut itself during the jump into the helicopter, which then exploded. Ironically, the part that they did need CG for was Bruce jumping out of the car, which is impossible to do safely at that speed. To produce the effect, he was filmed jumping out of the car at half speed, then sped up and inserted into a CG tunnel. The fake thing was real, and the real thing was fake, he says.
The thing about this, though, is it doesn't change our original point about that film.
I can't remember what the point. It was like episode 93.
The point was that the effects in the older Die Hard movies were kind of like believable in some way, that they could actually happen to a person. If anything, the fact that
like
was
walking across glass.
Yeah. Or like swinging from a fire hose off a building is about as extreme as it gets. Whereas that effect, even though it was practically achieved, was only achieved by fucking changing the way cars are to mean that they could do that. Like by putting a steel plate on the bottom. Like if that moment in the film had involved Bruce Willis welding a steel plate to the bottom of the car he was in so that it wouldn't gut itself or time to make that jump, then fine. But it wasn't, and it didn't. So
we're still right.
We're still right.
Denied, no pay.
But a good email because
it's always interesting.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I wish I'd known, before I saw Mad Max Fury Road, I wish I'd known that like 90% of it just actually happened. It's virtually a documentary. They just did all that stuff.
Yeah, it's fucking mental, that film. I really want to, I can't wait for the director's commentary of it just to see which shots were, how they even filmed
great,
stuff,
I'd love to try and dig it out. There's a great, gallery of photos online where, you know that kind of lame slider thing BuzzFeed sometimes do, where you can slide between two different versions of the same image? One is the kind of final shot of, Fury Road, and the other is the actual shot that was taken that day. And almost every time, the only things that are added in the background, obviously there's a lot of colour filtering that was done in that film.
Sure.
So there's colour stuff, but also basically the added mountains, because they filmed it all on flat desert in Namibia. In Namibia.
Mm-hmm.
Not Nvidia.
The deserts of Nvidia.
And they added, you know, loads of extra vehicles, basically, to the background. So, like, the size of the convoys is always bigger than it actually was for each individual action shot. Although I think all of those individual vehicles did exist. Right. So it's just about adding, you know, vehicles from different parts of the film to the same composite kind of shots. But it's kind of extraordinary what was real. Like,
but people, you know, jumping a motorbike over a tanker while things explode.
Or on massive
being on a giant pole.
Bendy poles.
They just did that.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Great film. It really stands up to a second viewing as well.
Really?
Massively. Like, I went to see it again because my girlfriend hadn't seen it, and just great.
Adam Beardwood, our good old friend, Spad on the forums, says, "Greetings, Creighton Throwbar." It is a
nice,
clever
Hitman reference.
Yeah. And also relevant to his question, which is, the Squeenix E3 demo of Just Cause was almost unimaginably boring.
Well,
what's the least exciting presentation of an ostensibly exciting game that you've ever witnessed? Cheers, Adam Beardwood.
Well, before that one, I don't know what it would have been.
God,
takes the cake.
That has actually erased basically all joy from my life, that conference. I'm so excited about E3. I really loved E3. If we didn't say this before while we're covering all the E3 games, I thought it was one of the best E3s there's ever been. I was totally buzzed for it, and I loved all the conferences, even EA's with its fucking, relentless sports
bunch
thing.
Of good stuff.
And then Square Enix's conference alone almost just brought the average down so low that it was worse than all of the E3 conferences I've ever seen. It was just mind-numbing. It was just astonishing how they could transmute gold into total shit.
It was such a weird experience for me because I spent that day so nervous about our conference that, like, I knew that what we were going to do would be a little bit more sedate, and especially because the rest of E3 had already been so, like the Sony conference had been this crazy, like, Chris Donlan wrote a really good thing for Eurogamer about how it was just like watching urban legends kind of just confirmed over and over again. Like, Last Guardian, it's a real game.
Yeah.
Like, Final Fantasy VII, where are we making it? Shenmue 3, why not? Like, all this, it's very much console stuff, but, you know, this kind of like, you know, not just like having Half-Life 3 actually finally revealed, but having it happen 3 times. And I was so nervous that, like, after that, we are kind of, like, sit down, talk to the developers about their game, show the game next developer thing, would come across as staid. And then, thank God for Square Enix, basically, who managed to make everything...
Lowered the bar, really.
Just, God, everything... Just staggeringly boring.
It's just so strange. I like all of their games. I mean, even, like, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts, not games I'm super into, but, like... I'm happy for them to be shown. I'm kind of interested what's going on with Final Fantasy. But, like, they managed to just turn everything that was good about their conference bad.
In response to this question, I was trying to wrap my brains for instances where I felt that professionally. Like, I was hoping that I would have some kind of funny anecdote of, like, some game that subsequently turned out to be amazing being demoed to me in a way that was, terribly boring. But actually, this is an industry defined so much by crazy upsell that that's actually quite rare. Like, you...
Do you remember EA's Battleforge?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a card-based game, in a way.
Card-based game, yeah.
I really liked it, actually.
Rich Stanton fell asleep during the presentation.
I mean, I guess
it was a hard
the point
game,
isn't. I guess the point in this case, though, isn't like a boring presentation for a boring game, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
It's a boring presentation for a fucking great-looking game.
Yeah, and that is rare.
That's what I mean. Like, when like Just Cause 3 isn't hard to sell to people, but they made it look hard.
Just
and
that was what I said about it. Like, until that presentation, I just didn't know you could make that boring by talking over it. Like, I would have thought, even with the most boring man in the world talking about the most boring thing over the top of it, I would still be looking at the footage and thinking, wow. But like I say, it blinded me. Like, I couldn't see what was happening.
There
I was
are
so
a lot
bored.
of things that go into successfully, presenting a game to another human being, and I've seen it done successfully in the case of like browser strategy games that I will never fucking play, where someone managed to make it sound accessible or exciting or interesting to somebody. And yet Just Cause, which is something I'm already interested in, was made to sound... I genuinely can't think of an example of that happening that badly, let alone over the course of an entire presentation. Which,
really long thing.
Like, managed to make Deus Ex sound boring. Hitman just about got through it.
Nier. I don't know what Nier is, having seen the Nier trailer, which reveals
a moon
character.
man appeared.
A moon man appeared. He had an evil moon for a face, and that wasn't interesting, somehow. They managed to make a person turning up on stage with a moon for a face boring. I don't understand. It was like they had cast a fucking spell. Just to...
It was... Like,
I was genuinely grieved after that conference. I think you worked out that I was angry, because in the chat I wasn't trying to be funny anymore. I was just being angry, and
it's like
I'd wasted.
It was weird because like there was a sort
life.
of high energy descent to the EA conference where like when it
was fun to mock that one.
This might just be because we were watching like. When it fell from grace at that conference, it fucking fell spectacularly. Like, there was something, there was a kind of like, a Milton-esque kind of like, fucking hell dive to the EA conference, where it's like, we're gonna open with Johnny Cash over a Mass Effect trailer, and then we're just fucking sinking this bitch. Like, there was no coming back from this. We are making this as boring as fucking... There's something almost admirable to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, in a kind of...
Follows up on sports by going, let's talk about mobile.
Yeah, and it's like, oh god, you mad fucking geniuses.
Sublime.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you witness the mundanity of God in that moment. Like, just the kind of the absolute boringness of what you're seeing. And what you want is Star Wars, but you're not even sure if you want Star Wars anymore. Because they've pitched it so fucking wrong, and Pele shows up, not as one of the greatest footballers who've ever lived, or even as emblematic of it, excitingly corrupt football organisation.
Just a sweet old man who doesn't know what he's saying anymore.
Yeah, just a sweet old man who's just sort of like, and it ends in this sort of a-linguistic space where it's just sort of like, wow, where we are now. And Square Enix managed to take that, in a year where we have precedent for not only the sublimely exciting E3 conference, but the sublimely incredibly dull E3 conference, and create a school assembly.
It was almost like they'd achieved like absolute zero, the kind of the state of the world where heat death has occurred and there's no movement. The atoms are just still now.
Like, all that remains after entropy is 3 pictures of a JRPG that doesn't actually exist over a piano.
Yeah.
And Kingdom Hearts.
Those are all the questions we have time for this week. Please send us more questions.
We receive them at questions@crateandcrowbar.com, also on the forum at crateandcrowbar.com/forum, or on Twitter at crateandcrowbar. If you'd like to question us as individuals, but please don't. We are...
I'm Marsh Davis.
That is also your Twitter handle.
Oh, yes.
So it is. I am Tom Francis, but my Twitter handle is Pensidact, which is PENT80ATT.
And my name is Chris Thurston, and my Twitter handle is CTHQSTN Thurston.
We really need, like, 4 people just to kind of...
Absorb the amount of booze we drink in the course of
Yeah. Yeah, sorry guys. Anyway.
Yeah, it's fine.
Thanks for
listening,
listening.
everyone.